I'm willing to believe that if Russell Wilson is traded, which, originally I was thinking was a non-zero. It was really like a 0% chance. Now I'm thinking it is non-zero, so it might be. I'd probably put it like 20% chance maybe. I feel like if it wasn't bad, they wouldn't be taking it so public, and also the Seahawks taking it public as well, saying that they aren't. The Seahawks are not kind of like the Texans, where the Texans have been like super like, no, Deshaun Watson's not getting traded. Russell Wilson, the Seahawks have not really shot down anything in particular when it comes to trading Russell Wilson. I don't necessarily believe that there is a non-zero chance, or that there is a 0% chance that it'll happen. But here's the thing: is let's go ahead and formally, move on to the Russell Wilson topic. Really quickly, just to update our listeners, he said that he would only play for 4 teams if he was traded: the Cowboys, Raiders, Bears, New Orleans Saints. The Cowboys have made it clear that they are not interested in him. So have the Raiders, who have really doubled down, saying that they want to extend Derek Carr to an extension. The Bears, though, have reportedly continuously reiterated interest in Wilson, and the Saints supposedly are somewhat interested as well, but there's not a whole bunch of understanding whether or not he could fit under the cap, and then also the situation with Drew Brees, that we'll get into in a minute. Here's the thing is, like, I think that if Russell Wilson is traded, I think he will be traded to the Bears. But the question of if he will be traded is such a big question, and it's probably such a small percentage chance that he will, that I don't feel like it's like a viable option to be really considering right now.
Yeah, it's really odd because they're probably the front runners in a very, like you said, low percentage trade scenario. I mean, I think, like you said, clearly,
clear front runners, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, John Gruden and the rest of that or not John Gruden, Mike Mayock, basically implied that John Gruden would be more than happy with extending Derek Carr and has been happy with his performance. And, oddly enough, the Bears are kind of the lead runner because they have been so adamant about calling and trying to bring in Wilson. So, yeah, I don't think the Bears can really bank on it. It is extremely interesting, though, because you have to think about the possibility of this. Maybe the Seahawks look, they're obviously going to get a lot of draft capital if, the Bears have to trade for Russell Wilson. And if they really want to make a push up to the top of the draft, maybe that they're thinking, they're in the place to be building for a few years down the road. I mean, maybe they need to kind of tear things apart a little bit to put it back together, and they think that, maybe once it's all put back together, maybe Russell Wilson, he's taken a few too many hits already. Maybe he's going to be a little banged up at that time, and they don't want to be caught up in a situation like the Steelers where they're hanging on for a quarterback for, the extra couple of years. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of the curve here. So, those possibilities are always open, and the Bears can't close the door on it, and I think as fans, we can't really bank on him coming here. But you kind of have to get to a point where it's like this team does need to make a decision what they're going to need to do about it, because they can't let this go on forever. I mean, eventually they do need to get this quarterback. So, at some point the Bears really need to turn up the dial if they are seriously interested about bringing him in.
All right, guys, really quickly before we continue with the show, we have to let you know that this podcast is supported by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and they obsess over their technology developments. They're trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, and we have an exclusive offer code for our listeners, 20% off plus free shipping using code BEARNECESSITIES, no space, at manscaped.com. Manscaped sent both Reese and I over a bunch of their tools and formulations from their Perfect Package 3.0. And guys, Manscaped is a great company. They wanted us to wait until we try the products to give you guys our honest opinion, and it is a very good product. They have no-nick technology and a little LED light, which helps you get the job done a little bit easier. Both Reese and I have really enjoyed the Lawnmower 3.0 so far, and we're looking forward to trying a lot of their other products. The underwear that they sent us in the box too has been spectacular, and if you guys are into athletics or go to the gym frequently, highly recommend those as well. And guys, really quickly, if you use the same razor on your face as below the waist, guys, that's a little bit nasty. Try to pick up something specifically engineered for that below the waist region with the Lawnmower 3.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BareNecessities at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping using code BareNecessities at manscaped.com. Make sure you check how to spell that in the description. That's going to support the podcast tremendously. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Here's the thing as well with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are a very non-traditional team. Like they do things very differently than a lot of other NFL teams. Pete Carroll is pretty much, he's like the monarch of the team, right? Like he is a absolutely complete. He has no one to look over him. He is the GM. He makes the personnel moves, and you can look back at it and say that, hey, like a lot of these draft picks that he's made hasn't really worked out too well. A lot of the decisions he's made haven't worked out too well. And also, on the other hand, the Seahawks are also super obsessed with kind of trying to stay ahead of the curve when it came to like Earl Thomas releasing him, players like that they kind of believe that they might have had a couple years left in them. They have decided to let go a little bit early. With the Seahawks, they've obviously been a successful team, but again, Pete Carroll is the head guy. And when football coaches run the organization, football coaches do not like dysfunction and they do not like to be questioned. And from what it sounds like, Russell Wilson has been directly questioning Pete Carroll and a lot of what he wants to do on offense. And Russell Wilson is not happy about it either. He's been going on the news talking about how many times he's been sacked in his career, how many times he was sacked last year, placing blame on the Seahawks roster as a whole. I can tell you right now, Pete Carroll does not like that. And, kind of when you talk about that whole Bill O'Brien situation with the Texans, it's kind of a similar situation when you draw comparisons of head coaches being of control of the roster.
Yeah, didn't the Khalil Mack trade literally go right in like as soon as Gruden became, coach there? Mm-hmm. And, it definitely seemed like maybe he had a hand in getting that deal put through. I mean, very much when you let the football guys be in charge, they are going to make probably a lot stronger of decisions, a lot more aggressive decisions than a lot of
emotional
GMs
moves
would do. And, maybe emotional moves aren't always bad. Like you said, I mean, someone like Richard Sherman, who's had a bit of a career after he's left them. I mean, could the Seahawks have used him for a couple of years? Yeah, sure. But it's not really something that ultimately ended up killing. I mean, their defense is atrocious, but it's not like you're like, oh man, if they still had Richard Sherman, they'd be over the top. Like every now and then, those kind of aggressive moves do pay off and, helps you, stay in decent cap situations. I'm not exactly sure where the Seahawks are at. Maybe they could be in a very poor situation, but when you're cutting, veteran players and replacing them with younger players, it's certainly going to work out in your favor. So, yeah, I mean, you never know. You can never really quite seal off this door and say it's impossible because, like you said, I mean, Pete Carroll could wake up one day and be like, you know what? I can do it without him, And if I can get this bevy, if I can get this haul and help try to rejuvenate this team, get some fresh blood in, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when football coaches control the roster, they make a lot of emotional moves. And, again, sometimes they yield better results. I mean, we've seen Bill Belichick. He won God knows how many Super Bowls with the Patriots. What was it, 6, I believe?
Yep.
So, yeah, six Super Bowls. And he was primarily the coach. But from what I've heard from a lot of people who are in the Seahawks organization and everything like that, it seems like the general sentiment is that it's either going to be Russell Wilson or it's going to be Pete Carroll. And guess what? Pete Carroll doesn't have a boss in the Seattle Seahawks organization, and Russell Wilson's boss is Pete Carroll. So it seems like even if
fire himself.
Yeah, even if you would rather have Russell Wilson than Pete Carroll, the power dynamics don't necessarily show that will likely be the case. But ultimately, I mean, God, if this Bears team got Russell Wilson, I'd be over the moon excited about this.
I mean, the day he walks in, he's like already the best quarterback to ever lace it up for the team. And,
not even a debate.
Yeah.
Not even a remotely close debate.
How could you not be excited? I mean, he is someone that he has taken a lot of hits. I mean, maybe he's not coming in 100% of who he's been. But, man, I mean, just to have a quarterback of that caliber on the team would be crazy. And, coming into the season, you'd have to kind of be like, man, it just feels good to have this amount of hope. It would be absolute insane. I'm sure we'd be making, if Russell Wilson ends up being the quarterback, we're probably going to have way too lofty of expectations for this team. But, I feel like there's going to be a good amount of excitement.
Hey, now that I can talk about, gambling and stuff on the podcast, man, if the Bears if the Bears land Russell Wilson, I'm gonna put like a good $100 on the Bears winning the Super Bowl next year, just for myself, just for my own sake.
Hey, man, I mean, you never know. If they were ever gonna make a run with someone, why not him? I mean, he's definitely probably, Deshaun Watson or him would give you the best chances of what you could technically get, what's technically out there on the market. So,
and really quickly, before we actually talk about Deshaun Watson, give me really quickly, Watson or Wilson?
That's tough. I think I go Watson just because if we're going to play the ideal game here and it's going to be like, all right, you're going to take your two pick, both of these are going to cost a lot. I'd say Watson just for the sheer longevity of it.
Yeah, that's my thought. Exactly.
The longevity is what is the main seller there. If it was just like a 1-year shot, though, it would change it a little bit. I would probably be like, maybe Wilson would give you that better run. But when you're looking at the long-term scope, and you have to when you're giving up that big of what it's going to be, you'd have to go with Watson.
Yeah, Wilson, I mean, he's been to multiple Super Bowls, won one. Watson is a great player, longevity speaking. It's not even close. I mean, it's going to be like, Wilson's 33, so he's 8 years older than Watson. The hard thing with Watson, though, I feel like Wilson is not going to come with any controversy, but if Pace trades for Watson, it's going to be like, well, look at what he just gave up to draft a guy he could have drafted originally, which is going to be such a... And it's irrational to talk like that because, hey, at the end of the day, sunk cost theory, you can't be talking about stuff that happened in the past. You should only be operating on what is available to you right now. But Wilson, I think in Pace's mind, he would probably rather have him for that reason.